So now I'm like in this thing where like I'm trying not to hurt myself, but I'm also being like, I'll be running and I keep going because I'm like, this is gonna pass. This is just resistance trying to slow me down in a real fucked up kind of way.
Big on the awareness part, right?
Yeah.
We're super big on the awareness part of when it's time to take a day off. And
Yeah. You want to hear a funny running story? I don't mean to cut you off.
this is the one that you wanted me to remind you about.
Yeah. This morning. This morning I was running down toward Price Chopper from my house, like so down 300 or old 300, and that mobile station that's on the corner when you make the left to go toward ShopRite.
Yeah.
Some guy was filling up his gas, and I was just like, I try and be friendly when I'm running because like it just like helps me get through it. So I like threw him a little wave, just like, hey, how are you? And he responded and he was like, how far do you run a week? And I was like, right now about 40 miles. And he looked at me and he goes, that's not too bad. And I said to him, I was like, yeah, but when I started, I was addicted to cocaine. I didn't get a response though. I was like running, so like I was like out of the way already.
That's funny.
Maybe that guy went through the rest of his day super inspired.
Yeah, I mean, he could have. He was like, that guy was on cocaine.
He was doing cocaine, now he's doing 40 miles.
Yeah. You know,
I used to be addicted to cocaine too, but I just don't run around the streets screaming about it.
he had a nice suit on. He was a nice guy.
Nice suit.
He's probably going to
certainly
church.
has tried cocaine before. Oh boy, we are here live in the dojo.
Yeah.
Dojo.
This is episode 49. This is episode 49.
49.
One more until we're at 50. So thanks for being here. That's crazy.
Yeah,
Of course.
we couldn't get to 50 without 49.
Yes. So and you're a big part of that.
Yeah, dude.
Glad
So
to be a
we're
part of
here
it.
with Joe Fry, Master Joe Fry, owner of Fry Karate. Let me be very clear about
Fry's
that. If you're
Karate.
looking for, well, not on Instagram because it's just
easier
Fry
to type.
Karate on Instagram. But we're here with Joey. He's a lifelong friend for me. Basically,
Yeah,
the
pretty
same
much
for
same
you
for
too.
me. Yeah.
And
Years, what, 25 years on going on for me and you about?
Yeah.
that's crazy.
You and I about 20.
Almost 20.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we wanted to just have
We've been
you on.
talking about this since we started the podcast.
Yeah.
Like having you on.
Yeah, so we wanted to finally get to do it, and what better time? And after you just had 2 kids, twins.
2 twins. Well, 2 boys. Well,
Yeah.
twins, yes.
Yeah. So, how is life treating you right now? Fresh off of fatherhood.
Daunting.
Yeah.
But smooth sailing. It's an eye-opening experience to understand and see how two little dudes can grow. It's a challenge, and you just gotta wake up and just keep pushing.
Yeah, you talked when we first got here. You talked about like responsibility. How has like waking up for something more than yourself changed your daily outlook?
I wouldn't really say it changed. I mean, I just have always been that kind of way, where you just kind of you get up and you go. And I get up, and my boys are my priority. And honestly, I don't want to say my boys are my priority. Let me backtrack. My wife is my priority when I wake up. Making sure she's taken care of. That was always kind of like my main goal with that. You hear so many horror stories like postpartum and stuff like that, and a lot of it, like for me, from what I experienced, is just making sure she's comfortable, and then that just kind of lets the babies kind of be comfortable as well. And they, I find that they do whatever energy you radiate off of yourself, they feel that, and then they respond to that typically. So giving that chill vibe throughout the day really does make the journey a little bit easier.
He's just a chill guy.
Just a chill guy trying to raise 2 kids.
Honestly, like you can't force. Like a lot of times, I know there was a point where Rach was just like, one of them's doing this and the other one's not doing that, and it's just like, obviously we both know, we both work with kids, but you can't force those leaps, whether they're a week old or 10 years old. They just kind of have to naturally explore and play and just kind of figure that out. And then at the end of the day, you're just playing with them. Mm-hmm. And that playfulness always kind of, I find, like really does draw a finer line in life. I even see that with the karate studio. Mm-hmm. Keeping everybody on I don't want to say like a solid track. You're just going and going. The track always divides eventually. and then you kind of go from there.
Yeah.
Discipline.
So
Yeah.
you've had a lot of jobs since we've been grown up, like because
many to
we've
count.
known each other for so long. But I feel like a theme along your journey is that you've always been teaching, and always been working closely with kids.
Yeah.
How do you think now, being a dad, all of that comes to the forefront and like really helps you raise your own kids? And what's different about raising your own kids than spending an hour or so a day with somebody else's kids?
It's the patience and the discipline that really comes down to it. I mean, martial arts discipline is just, you know, you shut up and you stand still at the end of the day. But that instilled in me, you know, learning that growing up, you know, not before I was teaching, just understanding, okay, I got to sit still. You listen, you observe, you take in the information, and you dissect it from there. That reflected into, you know, parenthood, just the same way. You just take it in, and then you just let it happen. You know, you can read all the books in the world on how to parent, how to be a good parent, how to not be a good parent, kind of thing. And whoever your person is in that moment, and however you react to that situation, whether the kid's screaming his little head off or giggling at you, really, really does determine that long run, I think. I really don't know how to answer that. It's a tough
It
one.
sounds to me like presence is just like your way of teaching and going about all of this.
Yeah.
Just being
an
like,
example.
yeah.
Be the example, and I don't know. It's you're growing up in that community kind of gives you that sense of ease. That ease of, you know, you always have somebody to kind of like ask for something, and then like I can look at Rachel and be like, hey, let's communicate about this moment. How are we going to navigate this, and make sure it works so that it is that little bit easier at the end of the day for both of us. You know, and you always see those videos on like Instagram and TikTok. You know, high five your partner. We're a team before we go out. You know, so the kids are against us, we're against them, kind of thing. But you know, it's the teamwork thing, man. You know, I find the right partner, and I'm honestly blessed to have such a good partner. You know,
It's amazing.
She's really just amazing. You know, she's credited towards the whole parenting thing right now. She's really taking that on, and honestly, just having a good partner and somebody you both can rely on really does make a big difference.
Yeah. You so like obviously like you are your own person, but you're taking care of your wife, you're taking care of kids in the studio, you get your own kids. How do you manage the relationship with what you can control, like you said, bringing the energy, versus kind of like taking what the day brings to you, whether it's other people or just kind of what happens?
Like how I navigate that, just like you said.
How do you let go of like
the anxieties of the day?
like having like not having control over like
I mean, I have.
people you're gonna
Yeah, I mean, I have my moments where it's just like
What's gonna happen
you
to
get
you?
that panic, and it's just like, how can I fix this? And we were talking about that before, and you know, I guess I'm like my dad, where it's just like you got to fix it, you know. That's another tough question, JP, man.
I mean, you know, we didn't come here to ask you the easy stuff.
I know.
You know that, bro. You know that.
I
Actually,
know.
you know what? Why don't we like backtrack a little bit? Why don't you tell us about where we are and what you do here in this dojo studio?
Well, this is
Warmed up.
warm me up.
Oh, but actually, before you do anything, take a nice deep breath.
Okay.
Big fans of Breath of
help.
the podcast.
It always helps.
No. So at the studio, I mean, here, this is my little community. My biggest thing with teaching karate is really just to translate the message of what I learned when I was a kid. I mean, I really struggled. I mean, you guys have known me for so long. I mean, my biggest struggle was my height, you know, and how to deal with the bullying, and that really coming here, not every night when I was a kid, but you know, to let go of those aggressions and those things that you couldn't really essentially deal with like in school, at home. I really helped, and that's really the biggest thing I want to give to whoever walks in through my doors, is that sense of community, the ability to let go. You become, for me, you know, I come in through the doors when I train. I'm in the moment. You know, you see a lot of Tai Chi practitioners, you know, they'll go through a 5-minute routine. We were talking about that before, and that's where I kind of find my zen. is I'm focusing on how my body's moving, listening to my aches and pains, and just being in the moment when I'm performing or I'm practicing or whatever. And when I'm working with the kids, you know, a lot of kids struggle with self-doubt these days, and they're shy. You know, I ask them to throw a good punch. It's a little handout, you know, and it's just like, you know, how can I guide them to dig a little deeper and be more aggressive, and aggressive being, you know, being able to shine in front of everybody, getting up in front of the class and talking about that subject in school. But yeah, that's the biggest translation I want out of what I do here, is giving people confidence and clarity in life, and movement. I mean, movement is such a big thing for me. To feel nice, you know, stretching every day, meditating, whatever it may be. That's what I do here.
Yeah, it's crazy because like meditation and all of that has become such a big part of my life now, but I remember being kids like in your basement and like you like, oh, we're always like, we should do something like working out, like pushing your body. Like I remember when we would go to Jersey and like you would just be hanging on the side of poles and like at first I'd be like, that's cool, but like why? You don't look that jacked, but like now I understand it's more of like that stillness and the balance and the core strength and the things that come from that, and how your body is so rooted in that. And like just having that what do you think about martial arts gave you that awareness as a kid that you've been able to carry with you for this long? Because I feel like that's a huge advantage to have, that like it might not have seemed like it at the time, but like you look back now and you can be like, God damn, like I've been able to do this since I was 12, you know? Like,
I mean, it's my practice has evolved a lot. I mean, in my early years, it was a lot about fighting. You know, but you know,
a young male, obviously.
You know, but once I kind of hit my 20s and I took over the business, it really became about the how to walk in peace, and you know, that evolution there was those little baby steps, those little wins every day, those small goals. You know, an old teacher I used to train with was, every day you get up and you practice, you're that much better. Not this much better. You know, a lot of times we set such big goals. So like a lot of that, the small goals has helped me a lot and what's kept me going. And then, you know, I took over the studio and that became my new journey. How will my training affect the way my business grows? And I'm constantly refining every time I get on the floor. When I'm teaching, I'm also practicing and being mindful of that. And when I do give a demonstration, is it what it should be? Am I giving a good picture so that people can reflect off of that and emulate and mirror, or whatever you want to say on that?
You wanted to ask about acquiring the business and how that came.
Yeah, so I mean, you mentioned an old teacher. I don't know if we're talking about the same one, but I was curious how you made the transition from, you know,
training to owning.
What's that?
Training to owning.
Yeah, exactly. How did you go from like using this as a way for you to feel centered, training, feel physically in your body, and then how did you incorporate the business, making money, doing the right thing even when you don't want to?
Yeah.
That is like, this is my livelihood. How did you make that transition to like still enjoy the discipline that you grew up in? Or did you like hate it for the first 2 years?
I hated it. I honestly hated it. You know, this kind of, I don't want to say it got thrown at me, but my first teacher, he retired and looked at me and said, "Do you want it?" And I said, "Sure." I had intentions on opening a school when I retired. I was going to get a job, do my 20, 30 years or whatever, retire, and then open the school, but kind of happened a little sooner than that, which I'm grateful for. But that first, man, I don't know, the first 4 years, right, leading up to the pandemic was so hard. Just with no business experience. That was hard to navigate, learning how to market, learning how to do that. But again, going back to the discipline, I would get up every morning and be like, okay, what's my new project? What's my new ad that I'm going to make? What's my new curriculum that I'm going to create? How am I going to introduce this to my new students? learning how to navigate bringing in new people and doing an intro lesson and all that stuff. I had no idea how to do that
It's
stuff.
like, I hate people.
No, honestly, like,
No, for real.
I
mean it.
I always had a hard time with groups of people, and when I would teach for my instructor, it was just I would go in, do my 45 minutes, and then I would train, and then it quickly, just like that, became me. Everybody's looking at me. How am I going to make this person happy? Hey, why is this person upset? And just navigating that, and then I kind of found my groove. The pandemic really, I think, helped me in a way, which is weird to say, where I had to close for 3 months, so I was like, I kind of just came to an utter halt. And that was like a really big reflection period for me. And then I kind of took whatever, I don't want to say what I screwed up before, but what I messed up before, and grew from that. I made my errors, I made my faults, and just, keep running from there. But just the idea that you're always going to have an obstacle in front of you, whether it be the pandemic, whether you lose 10 students, whether you try to open a shop up and you're dead for a month. You just keep going and keep pushing. And I pushed, I think I'm going on my 7th year of doing this, and it's finally working where I need it to work, and I don't really need to worry about it, which I'm very thrilled about. And I'm getting back to the point where I can focus on my training, my new family, and just being here and being happy.
Do you think that because you had that space to kind of stop, do you think you ever would have gotten to that point on your own?
No.
Do you think you would have just kind of like kept going through the motions?
I was on the verge of closing, truthfully.
But because you got that space to just stop, reevaluate, why am I doing this?
No, yeah, 100%.
Was it like a sudden moment, or did you kind of just like reconnect with that love of kind of like, because I would imagine it sounds like you lost that touch with what made you love it as a kid.
I did, 100%.
And then it's like, well, now this is this thing that it'll be the thing that tears my life down.
Well, yeah, no, because the pandemic happened. I went into a full panic for a good month, just trying to navigate how to keep the doors open. What am I going to do? How's it going to work out? And then that month was over, and then I had 2 months of just, we would go outside, me and my students, and we would just train once a week. And I think having that, like, just that one time I'm teaching, and then I just go home, and I'm home, and I'm not bringing the business home. And I think that was like the biggest thing that I learned to do was whatever struggles you have, don't bring it home, And that was a hard one because my wife also does karate with me. So our conversations we have here follow us home, whether it's good or bad. And that moment of the pandemic really, some people had a hard time with it, and I had my hard times with it, but it was also a good shift. When you do have a moment in life, I mean, you're saying you're getting tired of working at the bars and I don't say River Girl, but River Girl, you were there for so long.
Yeah.
And you kind of just become, I don't want to say blind, but it becomes...
It's like complacent.
Yeah, or it's a habitual, kind of thing.
You're going
talk about habits,
so much that you can't get out of it because it's like if I drop the motion, everything else is gonna collapse.
Yeah, literally, and that halt, that break, I think everybody needs that every once in a while.
I think the pandemic, when you look back, like just for our generation alone, you're gonna find either half the people really found it in that time space, or they just really went off the deep end. Because like I feel for me, I think that was probably the first times that I started to realize that like, hey, you got kind of an issue going on. Like, because I had never taken time away from working in a restaurant or the habits that I had built around working in a restaurant.
Right.
I was like sober for a whole month when I was in Virginia because I like wasn't working, so I wasn't why would I be doing drugs right now?
Right.
And like I think I had like a little look into it, and I think that's kind of what got me to the place a year, 2 years down the road where I was like, you need to make like drastic changes to what's going on so we can get back on track here. And I think for you, like it just like you just said, it just gave you that time, that pause that you hadn't had, and probably since you own the business,
Yeah, literally, 100%, yeah.
Yeah. It was an important time.
Apparently.
It's funny how just time is like pre and post that. Like that's how we'll always do because it was such like a...
To think of our friendship
crucial
before
time.
the pandemic seems like it was so long ago.
Yeah, I mean, but just like...
So I feel like I just like understand everything.
I mean, I feel like, just yesterday we were sitting at the bar just, BSing, and then they're just...
Doing backflips in the...
doing karate moves in the middle of River Girl. But yeah.
Oh, so
I'm gonna just reset this while we have a pause break here.
Yeah, no
I don't
problem.
know.
You guys give me little hard questions.
you knew what it was about.
Yeah, I know. I didn't want to think too hard. You can go back to those questions if you want.
Oh, damn, you off the right through both those, eh?
It doesn't matter. I mean, it's not gonna be in the video.
Oh.
This part's all gonna get cut out anyway. So let's go back a little further. When you first got into karate, how did you like first connect with it?
Like from when I was like my young training.
Like when you started doing it, like.
Oh God. I mean,
And do you still connect with that, or is it something different?
I mean, I think it was just like any kid's dream at 6, 7 years old. You want to be a Power Ranger or like a Ninja Turtle. Like that was always kind of my fascination. And then you get a little older, you got Dragon Ball Z and all that. I mean, I find everybody always has that kind of connection with it.
Yeah.
But truth be told, my parents threw me into it because I was little, being bullied, and they wanted to. I was quiet. I was a very quiet kid before I met you guys. And they just wanted to make sure that I had that little bit of confidence that when something does happen, Joey can say something or speak up for himself. But as I got older, I think I kind of more fell in love with the fighting part of it. and the challenge, making pushing your body behind past certain limits. I mean, there was a period of time where I just wanted to break wood all the time. I wanted to break bricks. Now my hand.
I scrolled past the video of you punching a hole in your basement door.
but like that person
It was a thin door, but it was still a door.
But that person, I was looking at that video and just like, I'm not that person anymore, but I still connect with that. Like I know in that moment when I was doing those things, like I was trying to achieve something that maybe somebody else didn't, and plenty of people did, don't get me wrong. I just really wanted to see how far I can push my body. Now I'm feeling the effects of it.
Now you're feeling
now a lot of my practice these days revolves around just maintaining.
You're more yin energy.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, way more so.
Yeah, and that took a while. With owning the business and having to learn to have the patience after that part of my journey, and working with a whole group of 5, 6-year-olds will really test your limits on patience. But then at the end of the day, it's like you learn that you're just playing with them, and then you're a structured play, and it's and then they get to break things too.
Yeah.
And you get to watch now I get to watch them do the things I was doing 20 years ago or 25 years ago at this point. And it's just I'm very excited to watch my kids do it. I'm very, very excited to keep the river flowing through them. And all the students that kind of walk in through here, whether they do this for 20 years or 5 years. I just hope that they take what I give them and they imply it or apply it to their lives.
Yeah.
The walking of peace.
But yeah. So discipline is something that we talked a little bit about, and like how it's a very big part of both of what we do and like what you do. What do you think is that driving force for your discipline? What makes you keep going every day? Like, aside from Rachel and the kids, like, what's the thing that you're like excited about that pushes you to get up and go every day?
What's your why?
My why is the teaching part, really. My training. We can always talk about training and pushing myself and doing something I haven't done before. But the teaching part is my why these days, and just watching people grow is so amazing. And I think that's what, like, going back to my kids, is like watching them grow is so exciting. And so now I get to, watch my students, kick a little higher every day, punch a little harder, and watch them get a new belt, and then getting to that big point where they're testing for their black belt, and them walking out of that black belt test and just being like, wow, I did that. It's such an honor to really experience that. And that's what kind of keeps my discipline going, is giving them discipline to know that they are in that moment practicing at home. Or, I love hearing when my kids say, like, yeah, I went outside and practiced 30 minutes. It's like, wow, okay. What I say does really get through to some people. Because sometimes you feel like you're talking to a group of people and This kid's playing with his toes and this one's picking his ear. And then they react. And that one moment, you're just like, wow, you did something great.
Yeah.
You know, like high five, you know, and I live for that now. Just, I love the hugs that I get these days from my kids and, you know, holiday season, the nice little gifts, just to know you're appreciated on a deeper level. And I know these kids are going to go to college and they're going to sit there and think from, wow, you know, Master Fry really did this for me. And I hope they do. Maybe they won't. I don't know. But just the thought of that is just very exciting to me.
Yeah.
You know, that's where my discipline goes today.
Master Fry sounds like the best guy who ever worked at McDonald's.
the Master Fry guy.
Like, nobody made a fry like Master Fry, dude. Nobody. You, in that you mentioned like how happy it makes you to see like these kids grow.
Yeah.
Do you find that you're able to see growth easier in yourself because you kind of like have the objective point of view of it in teaching all the time?
Yeah.
Or do you have, you know, is there a hard time for you to like
I'm always
resonate with that yourself?
doubting myself. Always. You know, like going back to when I opened the studio, taking on such a role, you know, I had such a huge battle with imposter syndrome. Huge battle. And I think that's what like my biggest struggles were in the beginning was I didn't know who I was, you know. And in dealing with that and then navigating through that, you know, that helped. What was that question again? I lost the track there.
That's a very good answer, though.
I know.
Yeah, I thought I was like, he's about to knock this out of the park.
I got on that thought and I lost it. Go ahead. Go over there. What was that question again?
Is it easier for you to see like growth or change in yourself
Right,
because
okay.
you see it on a very objective level all the time as a teacher?
So with seeing the growth in myself, like I'm going back to that, I'm like a perfectionist, and like when I'm moving, sometimes if it doesn't feel right, I'll do it over and over again, and then I'll end up injuring myself. But what I do these days, so that I can keep myself in check, is I'll record myself, and so that I you know, I spend a lot of my evenings like looking back at old footage, and just analyzing and critiquing myself, because you are your biggest critic.
Damn, I didn't realize you were such a big film study guy.
I am.
Tape guy,
You know,
tape guy.
but I do that just so that I can you know maybe my hand is here and it should be here kind of thing, and then I'll go back and I'll say, okay, this is what I'm going to practice today, and kind of giving yourself those bullet points. Really, I mean, at least for me, really helps me kind of go forward, and that's my checks and balances is my videos and in the constant battle in the head. You know, is this perfect? Will this be perfect? It never will be. You know, but that's when you see those little goals shape, and then eventually you just forget that you were in that mindset of self-doubt or whatever it may be, and then you go back and you look at footage from 3 years ago. I mean, I'm sure you guys will look back at your first episode and you're like, wow, this was horrible, but look at where we are now.
Yeah, we do that
You know,
all the time.
But you know, and like I feel like a lot of
episodes are just being like, remember when we had one phone?
I feel like a lot of people don't do that, and they
Yeah.
don't reflect
Yeah.
backwards.
If you're
and-
not like
and-
cringing at that old stuff,
Yeah.
then like, what are you doing?
yeah, no,
You know?
that's not
And
growth.
I'm not saying you should just cringe at everything you've ever done,
Yeah.
but I'm also saying that like you should be able to see like those improvements.
Yeah, no, 100%.
I was listening to something today, and they said that actually the stress of being a perfectionist will get in your way way more than any of your imperfections.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
And like that, you're speaking my language right now, because it's so hard to like just focus on how far you've come
Yeah.
versus being like, well, what can I fix today? What can I fix? And finding that balance and like, I can improve on this, but let me not lose track of everywhere that I've been.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. You know, it's living in today and not yesterday.
Yeah.
You know? And-
Child.
But a lot, because it's just like sometimes like I'll have mornings, I'm sure you guys go through that, you wake up and just like, man, I screwed up yesterday. And then that just kills the rest of your day. And then you're just like, oh, I was miserable yesterday. And then you're miserable the next day. And you screwed up once, don't do it again.
Yeah.
Can't feel bad for yourself.
No, you really
Yeah,
can't.
And it just, I feel like when I was younger, I couldn't get in touch with the idea that feeling bad about something wasn't going to get me anywhere. And not that I've solved it completely, but I feel like I just truly understand that concept now.
Yeah.
That it's like, no, like dwelling on this really is not going to get me anywhere. This shit sucks.
Yeah.
Why stay in this? Like do something. And like you said, and then it's just like, you can make it small. Just go to the gym today.
Yeah.
Just go train. Just get a little bit of work done.
A little bit of breath work.
Yeah. Meditate
Even
for
that-
10 minutes. Sometimes it's that simple.
10 minutes is better than no minutes. And I tell my students all the time, I'd rather you practice for 1 minute than no minutes. You
But
know?
also, if you do the 1 minute, you'll probably end up doing at least 10, just because you're like, I'm here now.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
because
the resistance
you're
thing.
sitting and you're just like, man, I could be just looking at my phone. I could play my games, you know, I used to. I don't really do it all the time now. But when I'd be playing my games, I'd be practicing my splits.
You love your games, dude.
I do. I love playing video games, but I always found a way to, you know, in between, you're sitting in the lobby, do 10 push-ups. You're sitting, you know, do something.
You're mining on RuneScape.
I'm
Come
mining-
on, tell
I'm
'em,
mining
tell
on
'em. We know what you're
RuneScape.
playing.
You know, like you're grinding away, you know, multitask. I had a teacher one time, school teacher, like, you can never multitask. I'm like, that's BS. You can multitask. Maybe your mind isn't essentially in three things. It's in that one object or whatever you're doing in that moment, mining on RuneScape. But I could still do a squat and mine on RuneScape. You know, and you got to stay busy. You know, whether it's a good busy or bad busy, but the second you stop moving, that's when the thoughts come flying in, and that's where the self-doubt comes into play. And you know, just get up and move so you're not sulking.
Yeah.
So you're like big into pushing your body, and I am too. And I think it's for very much the same reason. It's a lot quieter when I'm moving like that.
Yeah.
Like the thoughts are clear. I'm still thinking, but everything that's coming in, like I have like a good lens on it. I can concentrate. What do you do? Like, what are you doing now to like really push that? And how do you know when you're pushing it too far?
I don't really push myself these days. But what I do every night when I'm on baby shift, when I'm on baby duty, is I'll run through like forms pretty much for a good hour these days. Now I'm not being intense. I'm really taking it as like a walkthrough, but then, you know, being mindful of how my body's shaped, what shapes am I creating, are my lines good, am I balanced? That's what kind of keeps me that levelness, so that I can, after having my day of teaching and, you know, hanging with my children, that's my peaceful moment. Is just that walkthrough. You know, when I'm teaching, I'll push myself a little bit, but it's very, very rare that I'm physically pushing myself. It's more mentally these days.
Yeah.
I have a weird obsession with remembering a lot of forms, and that's kind of like, I think I'm up to like 56 now, 56 patterns. And that's where I kind of like, I'll revisit, I'll go back, I'll backtrack, and I'll just to make sure I have refreshers. And that's kind of, I mean, I'm sure with like the Tai Chi patterns you're doing, I do know how many steps there are.
I don't do a lot of them like that. Like I
Okay.
do a lot of bouncing, I do a lot of tapping, like stuff like that in the morning
Okay.
to get me going. Yoga is like my big practice.
Okay.
Like
Well, so it's
the
like,
form thing, like I'm in the middle of trying to perfect. Like I want my downward dog to look the best as it can, so it's my transition.
okay. So it's like
flow.
when you do a flow in yoga, you know, it's how many patterns can you create with those flows? And I like to kind of like keeping them together, and just really I love exploring just how you can make your body intricately like move from one spot to the next, and moving your center to this center and the weight to there and this and that. It's just your body can be, you know, especially as you age, so much more dynamic because you have so much more control being older. Kids are wanky, they're floppy, you know, and like I don't want to say you get stiff as you get older, but you get set in your ways. And then you can push beyond those boundaries of what you were set in. You know, I mean, last year you were here. We're working on your knee and your hip.
Yeah. Sciatica.
Yeah, how's that doing these days?
It's better. It's
Yeah.
better. I stretch like way more often. I
Good.
still use those exercises that you taught me.
Good. Yeah.
Know them, like the one-legged. I'd be in the gym doing one-legged hip thrusts.
Nice.
with like 20 pounds. But like really like you. Oh, I remember this. Like I can hear you when I'm being like pushed through your heels.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
and that changed
but those
the way I did
pains,
that.
do you still have those pains, or do they?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Are they more subtle now, or
Yeah.
is it? You know, and I remember there's so many.
I'm not like mad at myself for having them.
Yeah, right.
So I
no,
feel
yeah.
like that immediately helps too.
Yeah, because there was a point in time where I really threw my back out. I had a bad knee, and just those pains radiate through you. And now I know how to navigate that in a more peaceful way, rather than being mad at yourself. That how did I get here? You know. Now I kind of know how to self-practice in a way where it's like your body awareness, body intelligence.
Yeah.
Being aware of where your body's going, how it's moving is important in learning those patterns.
How do you like maintain that awareness when you said you're doing the same forms over and over again? Like a big thing in why people lose their discipline, especially in physical stuff, is the staleness of doing the same thing. How do you stay in your body? How do you maintain that awareness while like how do you learn the new stuff without unlearning the old stuff?
So I think a lot in the beginning when you first start training, you know, whether it be karate, whether it be yoga, tai chi, any of those kind of like art stuff, it's very external. Your thoughts, you think of everything that's radiating outward. What kind of like when you do downward dog, you kind of think of how you're making the point, you know, and pushing your
my
heels.
shoulders are my palms really in the ground,
Right.
Are my toes connected to the mat?
And I think eventually, at least for me in my journey, it's become so much more inward, where the breath work really does apply to when you are doing it.
It's a breathing class. It's not anything else class.
Yeah, and like with Tai Chi, like you're breathing through those movements and creating that gracefulness. Karate, I mean, it's a little bit more, I don't want to say aggressive, but it's harder. So the breathing's a little different, but you feel it when you feel the moment you do something right. You know, you don't feel your knee buckle, you don't feel your elbow pop. It just feels natural. It feels like it just happened. And I think a lot of that in life should feel that way. It just happens. Because the more you force a good punch or a good downward dog, the more it's not going to feel right. So the more it's like the resistance. You know, the more you're being resistant on it being not perfect and just letting it become perfect. I think that shapes a lot of stuff.
Like trusting where you're at in that moment.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's a big part of like when you have injuries or stuff like that. You mentioned like small changes. Get a little bit better today so that tomorrow you can get a little bit better versus like, no, you're not going to wake up tomorrow and your back's going to be fine.
Yeah.
You're not going to wake up tomorrow and now my shoulder works perfect.
Yeah.
It's just like being like, but I'm here. I'm doing the yoga. I'm doing the stretching. I'm exercising. I'm doing whatever.
You're doing what you can to make yourself a little bit better that day.
I think I mentioned this on an episode recently that like it's just as key to a good sleep if you feel like you accomplished something, like you did something physical, as it is if you actually did the physical thing.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, sleep is number one.
Showing up.
Yeah.
Sleep and good eats. Don't overeat and sleep a lot.
I'm big on that right now. I'm like almost plant-based.
Yeah?
Right? Yeah, I've kind of gotten away from meat altogether. I had chicken the other day and I had turkey on Thanksgiving, but it's very much I just like high energy, whole foods and plants.
Yeah,
And
no, literally. Yeah,
that's what I run on.
Good, yeah. Literally, you run on 40 miles a week.
Yeah. But I mean, like, it's such a big change. I think this is like so cool that we're all sitting down here and the energy between the three of us is just so, we were so young. We just were men pent up with a shit ton of yang energy. And now we're all just sitting here much calmer, much more relaxed, but like having a
Not
good
beating each other.
conversation. Yeah. Like, it's just a testament to the journey that we've all been on, you know?
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, you mentioned like young men, masculine energy. You love to fight, we all, you know what I mean? And like that, you know, and like a certain amount of that, I think.
Joey knocked me the fuck out once.
You hit me first.
I need to not get knocked out.
Well, actually, no, you hit JP first.
I hit everybody in the room that night.
And then you hit me.
Look at where we are. Yep. Love you guys. So then you've become a father recently, but even like as the years have gone on and you've become a husband, you've owned your own business, how has your kind of definition of being a man and being like okay with who you are in all aspects, not just like what's on paper, if that makes sense, like, you know,
I think, you know,
It's hard as a man. I think it's hard as a man to, you know, not be defined by those external things.
yeah,
sometimes.
I mean, I've learned to become way more sensitive. I was a rock, man.
We were all sensitive kids, and we were all just trying to be tough to each
Yeah,
other.
Yeah.
you know, and I tell you, man, since my boys have been born, I have cried so much,
Yeah.
and it's all out of happiness, you know, and I don't know, being a man to me, being a man to me, I don't know,
You Hulk sound.
it's I don't know, man, it's really just kind of. I think it's more about how can you give to those around you that you care for, and support them in whatever way you can, and I think that's when it always comes back to you in a good way. And the more you push against that, the more tougher you want to be in a situation. Really, just creates more issues within yourself. You know, because then you get that like negative aura presented, and you know,
My 20s were filled with those kind of thoughts.
yeah, you know, and I remember watching you guys go through that, both of you, you know, and I stepped back, not in a malicious way or anything, but I let you guys do your thing, you know, because when you guys were really going through that, like I was just taking over the business, and I always knew you guys would come around, I don't know, you know, but it's like you kind of need to explore that to understand how you need to explore those struggles in your own right so that you know how to crawl out of them when they do come up to you again. I find a lot of people these days, they're always kind of questioning, how am I going to be a good man, or what is a good man? Just be there. Like
Show up.
shut up and listen.
And that starts with showing up for yourself, I think, right?
Yeah.
And like in those moments when it's just like I had to take a step back
Yeah.
from these friendships and things like that, people stay in those things or whatever it is. And like, there's no way of knowing. There's no way of going back. But I just don't think that we're sitting here doing this if all of us didn't kind of like have to take that break from each other.
Yeah. I mean, you guys had to learn how to take care of yourselves.
Yeah.
Really, you know, I mean, obviously you could feed and shower and bathe, but like,
Yeah. So some days those are tough though.
yeah, you know, yeah.
Some
and-
days those are real tough.
Real tough, dude.
Some days we didn't come home to a place with a shower.
but like truthfully, the amount that you both have grown in the last decade of your lives, it's just incredible to see.
Thank you.
You know, and I'm very proud of you both. And you know, you just keep pushing, and just show up and smile, and if you can take care of yourself, you can take care of others, and that should be for any new father out there or too soon to be. Take care of yourself first, so that you can take care of your partner or your children, or it may be.
I love talking about this. Like, I feel like when I was able to admit to myself that I was a sensitive person, a lot of things changed.
Yeah.
You know,
And sometimes you don't want to be this sensitive.
Well, no,
because you
and-
don't want to
and,
look.
like-
You don't want to look vulnerable.
being like obviously like there's always that stigma around being a man, but when you take it 20 years back for us, it wasn't like it was, you know, and like things had still come a long way then, but it was still like this thing of like be a man, you know.
Suck it
there's
out.
there's no crying, be tough, you know, like, and the more that I've developed like my own definition of what that means to be a man, and that like it's okay if you want to cry during the sad movie, and it's also okay if you want to cry about a breakup,
Oh yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
it's all okay.
You are your own definition of man. You really are. You know, it's however you want to portray that manhood. Honestly, different. It's different for everybody. It really is.
That was a really good answer.
Thank you.
Just be there, dude. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, it's literally. It's just like you hear so many sad stories, and it goes back to self-doubt. Can I be a good dad? Can I be a good husband? Can I provide? And providing could come from so many different directions. Providing with love, providing with food, you know. But a lot of times we do end up.
Amen. The house husband. That's me.
Me too. You know, but a lot of times it just goes right to money. And you know, and I think when I opened my doors here, it's just like, how am I going to make the most money? And that made me miserable. It made me lose something that I love, because I was so not obsessed with making money, but making sure I made the right amount. And once I let go of that, I was able to kind of become more at peace with everything else. And the money will come. Money. We're gonna live a lot longer, you know. Like we'll be 80, 90 working still. It's fine. Whatever, no retirement for us.
Yeah, like connect. I feel like that what you said there about like what can you give versus thinking like, because I feel like when you're in that mindset of how much money can I make, you quickly lose sight of what can I give.
Yeah.
And even when you may be lacking in the financial department or resources, like there's always something that you can give. And I feel like people underestimate that. Like you might not be able to give financially of something, but like you have this space or whatever it might be. And just kind of like taking that, I'm not just this number with a comma in it on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Or on my, on your banking app on your phone.
Oh yeah.
And it still exists, but that's why we're here, right? Trying to fight back against the.
We're not watching war documentaries. We're gonna cry instead.
Marley and me. That one I bawled my eyes out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I feel like I cry every time I watch a movie now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if directors have gotten better at making you feel things.
I think
or
it's
if
you.
I just opened up.
Directors have always been good at it. The other night I cried watching Leon the Professional. You guys ever seen that movie?
No.
But it's like Natalie Portman when she's like 12.
Oh, really?
And like the assassin takes her under his wing.
That just got you.
Nope.
That's what gets you.
No, I can't reveal the ending, but it
Okay.
made me cry. I can't. You could probably figure out what happens. The guy's an assassin. But things that normal, like I don't know, just having like that different lens of seeing things through more than just. It's almost like taking and putting on your own glasses versus like always looking at stuff through the lens of what will society think, what will these people think,
No, yeah.
what will this imaginary entity think.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think society as a whole really just does have a perfect image of what a man and a woman is, but that's going back, 30, 40 years. And
It's much longer than that,
yeah, and that's not the way it is.
Yeah.
It's not the way.
Yeah.
No. Are you so let's talk about that real quick. Are you like, do you practice like anything? Is there anything that you study like spirituality wise? Because I feel like you've kind of always had that connection. And I don't know if it was just because you had like the discipline that you took time to be still so like you could realize that there's something going on. Like this isn't just like all happening to me and for me, like because like I'm big on Taoism now. Like I read Wayne Dyer every morning. Like that's my go-to, and that's a lot of what you taught, like what you've always talked about, like and paradoxical.
It really, for me, it comes down to being present in the moment, and really just that you're walking down a trail and. Most of the time, you just kind of keep walking. But taking that moment to stop and observe, I kind of connect with a lot these days and just being really connected to the surroundings. I really don't know how to put a word or on the spirituality of it to give it like a term for me. I've read a lot of it, but it's really kind of connecting with the earth and the people and the relations kind of. I mean, I grew up in it was like a Catholic home in that kind of sense. And not that I didn't connect to it, but I just always thought there was more to it than a book. It's more about kind of sitting in the grass and just smelling the air, hearing the birds.
You find God in nature.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I believe in that. We're Tauruses.
Yeah.
But it kind of sounds like you're saying is I lost my train of thought.
I love all of God's creatures, honey.
No, literally, it's. I don't want
it's just kind of like realizing how much of like a rushed life you lived before.
Yeah, and it becomes a moment.
I was the one rushing life. I think you assume that life is the one kind of like rushing you around, and I got to be here and there.
Yeah, and
you're rushing yourself is what you realize.
And like even like, you kind of can put it in the sense how I look at it is you are your God.
Yeah.
I am God. I am me. I am him, kind of thing, and I am her, whatever you want to say. Like, you are in control of what you observe and what you put forth You know, if you put negative and forward, it's gonna be negative.
Yeah.
You know, you put positive, you're gonna get positive back. And if you give both, it'll be neutral. You know, and I guess I look for these days more the neutrality of it, the yin and the yang, you know, the two little dots on the inside.
The
You know?
balance.
Yeah, the balance and just because you have to have that negative to learn. And if God was throwing a negative obstacle in front of you, you got to climb over it and just keep pushing, you know, and don't let that kind of pull you back down.
Yeah, I feel like the way that you look at the challenges that come to you can be a big game changer.
Yeah.
Because it's like you can either know that eventually they're going to come, or you can make a big scene and feel like a victim every time.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I know that everybody else out there is, you know, I mean, you know, you can make the argument that some people's lives are better than others, but like, it doesn't make sense to wallow in.
No, definitely not. You know, and I got to think, go back to the whole like money things. Everybody kind of, I don't even want to say money, but like a lot of people just always want more. They're always searching for more instead of being content and just being and watching life grow and flourish. Like my plants, I love watching plants. They take their sweet time. They don't grow fast. I mean, you give them good light, they'll grow fast, you know, but nature, you know, when it comes to spirituality is a very big thing for me, honestly.
Yeah. I had a very similar conversation with the mushroom entity one time when I was tripping, and it was just like,
mushroom entity.
it was like, yeah, it was like, God is all of us.
Yeah.
You're all God. We've been here since the beginning. We saw you guys get here, and I was like, that sounds fucking cool to me, man.
It's like I feel like sometimes a lot of people are waiting for an answer instead of finding the answer. You know,
I think that a lot of people struggle with not knowing everything and being okay with
and acting
this is
like
what
they
I
do know it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then I mean, and to me, that's where religion comes into play. It's just like, you don't know.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not saying that any type of religion can't help you be a better person and stuff like that, but it's just like, you don't know. You haven't been there, you know?
Explore it all.
Yeah, and like,
Explore it all.
be okay with discovering something for yourself along the way. It doesn't have to be.
And it's okay to be wrong, too.
It's okay. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
That's a hard one.
It's okay to adopt to, like, I feel like religion turned me off so much when I was a kid, and then I was like against it so much, but then I realized like, nah, this is kind of like a buffet. I can kind of
Pick and choose
what resonates with me.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying like I'm just doing wrong things and ignoring them.
Yeah.
But I think just kind of like building your own version of, like, to me, like what God is just like being a good person.
Yeah.
Right.
No, yeah. Literally.
You know, doing the right thing, trying to be a little better every day.
Yeah. I mean, I think I like with like my martial arts background, like that's one major thing it's taught me is to keep learning, keep exploring, and keep just indulging. You know, and sometimes you just get I come across a lot of people where they get so fixated on one specific art style or one specific religion, and it just becomes just that. And then you were stuck like that for decades. And it's hard to break away from that. You know, being open-minded and exploring is play with ideas, play with, you know, all that.
No, and I kind of feel like what you're talking about is like, if you're at a low point and then you find something, you rely on that to be the only thing versus kind of like building upon that.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And that can be dangerous because it's just like, I don't know, I feel like eventually
That's when it becomes cyclical.
the philosophies or whatever
Yeah.
will let you down. Eventually you're going to come across something that you don't agree with or something.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Yeah. All right. So there was yeah.
Hold on for a second.
I'm going to turn the heat up a little.
I'll just podcast by myself. Don't worry about it.
It's just ag now. I hate winter, but I also love it at the same time.
I like the winter because I feel like when the winter's over now and the spring, I'm always way better than I was in the fall. Now it's just about getting better. So it's like, I love when the season changes because I can be like, yeah, fucking, we're getting somewhere. I try and look at progress in like 3-month leaps now. Like, be somewhere better in 3 months.
Yeah.
So.
Let me just check the mic here. Testing. That one, I don't, did you guys see that thing click?
No, I didn't hear it.
Did you hear it click?
No.
Must have been when we were like laughing or something.
How did it click?
It had already stopped recording.
Oh, okay.
But we have the wide angle.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
So when we
should do.
when we give people the questionnaire to fill out, it's just so like, I mean, we knew you, but we wanted to be professional, so you got like a little background. But there is a section on there where we ask if the guest has any questions for the hosts, and you are the first person to like really fill that out. So if you want to just go and ask a couple of the things that you had written down, but we have a closing question for you, but we'll do this first.
Well, my biggest one that I do want to ask is what is your perspective on martial arts?
Okay.
How do you see it? What is it? What is it to you?
So, I mean, my familiarity with martial arts is kind of like what I know from you through growing up, and then, you know, that kind of later in my life, like especially when like UFC and stuff like that came around, and I feel like a lot of it has always just been related to fighting. But now where I am in life and practicing the things that I practice, I see it as just like probably how you see yoga. It's another art form that allows you to come be true to yourself and get centered and rooted in who you are and what you're doing, and it allows you to be present in the moment. Like you said, a good way to move the body.
Yeah.
You know?
Beautifully put.
Yeah. From a guy who's never taken a class.
Honestly, you know? And the reason why I asked that is just like, again, we've known each other for so many. Yes, we've talked about it, you know, but the adult perspective of it does change dramatically.
I feel like I look at it way differently now than I looked at it when like we were growing up, or even when you like went into this business.
Yeah.
And you were like really taking it very seriously. The physical aspect of it has always intrigued me, because it's like, you know, you see like the kung fu movies as a kid, like you said, you're into like Dragon Ball Z or whatever the fuck it is. Like I think any like young boy gets into stuff like that. But my perspective on it now is like, I'm intrigued at like, what can I pull from that buffet? You know, like what could I use from there? Like how can I've done a lot of work mentally and physically recently, and like what can I add to that? Like what tool, even if it's a small thing, could I bring from that?
Oh yeah, I always tell my kids.
What would you say that? Like what would you say? That's a good question. Like what would you say is like something from martial arts that we could use in our daily lives, or that anybody listening could use?
You should always have one sharpened tool, and you should always have a toolbox filled with multiple tools. So you always have your sharpened edge is always the way you go, or what you rely on. But if that fails, you at least have a toolbox to reach back into. That's what I like tell a lot of my kids, because a lot of times it's just like we want to learn everything and be great at everything, but just have a few tools and you can navigate a lot easier that way. And I think martial arts does teach that very well. With the, you know, discipline, respect, confidence. Like those are three bottom lines, especially when I'm advertising. You know, that's what a lot of people are looking for.
Teach your kid how to not be a piece of shit.
Literally, you know. But like those tools, like can that discipline be reflected out in the real world? Can you be confident in the real world? Can you all those little things? That's kind of the big.
Do you get like feedback on that? Like, is there parents that'll come in and they'll be like, "This, my kid's like way more confident, like way more patient."
I feel like the focus is a big selling, like because like so many kids are all over.
All they focus on is iPads now.
But that's hard though, because that's just what they do these days. So it's like 5 years ago, I would hear more of that. You know, but the kids go home and they go straight to their tablets or computers or whatever it may be. But honestly, the biggest change I see in my students is the girls. Girls are incredible. The work ethic behind these little ladies sometimes, man, is awesome to see. And just the confidence that these little girls get, and they can sit there and they can take what I say to them. They can walk down the street with their chin high. That makes me happy.
Nice.
You know, that's what makes me happy.
I love that.
That's the feedback I like to hear. You know, I get it with the boys too. Don't get me wrong, but boys are different these days. They're very shaped
That's
differently.
the sensitivity right there.
Yeah, you know. But that going back to that is just like now I'm getting a lot of parents with boys. They're like my boy is a little bit tougher. That's a lot what I get. They're more confident in themselves that they can stand up for themselves. And like, great, I did my job.
That stuff is huge. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. All right, what else you got in there?
All right. Do you think 10-year-old you would be proud?
10-year-old me would be proud. 10-year-old me really wanted me to be playing shortstop for the Yankees.
So he'd be very upset with you.
So I don't know. I think 10-year-old me would be happy with the way that things when I was a kid don't affect me anymore. I don't let things that happened to me as a child control the narrative that my life is on, and that I've reshaped it. And that also, like, I'm a happy person. Like, I might not have everything figured out, but like the relationships that are important to me are thriving. Like, I'm alive. Physically, I am in the best shape I've ever been in. Like, so yeah, I think 10-year-old me would be proud. He'd probably be like, "Why'd you spend 7 years doing cocaine?" But like, I think he'd be happy with the rest of it.
I don't know.
Yeah. If he was looking over my resume, he'd be like, "Why were we blank from 23 to 30 years old? Like, why didn't you put anything down?"
Yeah. I mean, that's a really good question. I think that 10-year-old me would be proud, but not in the way that I expected to be.
Yeah, I feel that.
In a similar way to like what you said, that like if 10-year-old me knew what I was about to go through for the next 20 years,
Yeah.
I think he'd be proud of where I'm at now.
Yeah.
Because it's for me, it's from that point, it's learning to love myself. And I'm not all the way there yet, for sure. But I know that as a young boy, like I had a hard time like being okay with myself and trying to fill those holes in ways that I did not think was within me.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I would be the most proud of myself, is that I'm okay with being myself now, at least to a certain degree.
Yeah.
You know?
Nice.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Thank you.
Right.
I've been at this podcasting thing for a while.
49 episodes.
Yeah, I suck at
I come
this.
prepared to every conversation. I'm ready to drop truth bombs at any moment.
What pushed you towards change? I want to specifically ask you. Well, I'm going to ask you
me?
too, but I'm more.
Yeah, this
This is your question. What was that moment that you're just like, damn, I need to do something?
I had been having that moment for a while, especially, I think, so it's funny because I joked around with Luke about this the other day, but when you're younger and like you're trying to, you have this vision of how your life is going to be and what you want it to be. And I think I looked up to a lot of false idols, people that I thought were good role models. Not that they were bad role models, but they weren't aligned with where my life was going to go, and certainly the direction that I went on wasn't going to lead to a good outcome.
Yeah.
So I think what pushed me to change is, like I said, I won Best Bartender and nothing changed, you know? It was the same as it was the 4 years before I won it, when I was the runner-up and wherever I placed those couple times, and then to win it, and then you have like maybe a week of glory, and then it's kind of just like, now what do I do?
Yeah.
And for a long time in my head, the next step was like, now I have to own a restaurant, and like I have to be the owner.
Yeah.
And be the best at doing that. And I dug myself into a hole that I couldn't get out of, and I knew I wasn't going to get out of, so I just did anything I could to get myself out of that headspace of like that. I let my ego fully take the wheel, because I didn't like my higher self being like, hey, bud, we got to plan out the next couple of years. You can't just stay stagnant. And I think that change, like, I had those flickerings in my head, like, you shouldn't be doing this. Like, you're deteriorating your body. Like, you're not happy. Like, things are getting worse. And then, like, the person I was with at the time, like, I was a horrible person too. So then to look at them and be like, damn, I'm destroying myself, but now I'm taking you down with me. I was like, I need to do something so that I don't do that to all of the relationships I had going on. Like, and I think that constant just like looking at the day every day and seeing like what I was doing to myself and everybody around me kind of was like, something has to change. And I've been listening. I hung out with Huddy. Me and him went golfing, and he put me on to Mike, that guy that I listen to all the time. And I started listening to his podcast, and I listened to a lot of people that were around our age, like from late 20s to early 30s. And like, seemed like that was the time that everybody makes that jump. And I was like, well, are we going to do this, like this shitty lifestyle that's destroying me for another 10 years in my 30s, or are we going to change something? Right. And I took the time to change, and it started slow. Like I meditated every day and woke up and worked out and did stuff for 6 months, and then went to work every night and got hammered and did coke. Yeah. So like it was all redundant. And then I just came home one night and I was like, this has got to fucking stop. And just from that point on, I was like stern about it. I don't know what exactly it was.
It was just like a buildup.
It was a buildup of things. I'm not sure I can pinpoint one moment, but just like that buildup of things made me realize that this isn't the way that it was supposed to be for me. Maybe it is right now. Like maybe I didn't need to go through this, but like the fact that you've been thinking to yourself for 2-3 years, like, I don't know if I want to be in this relationship. I don't know if I want to do this job. I don't know if I want to do drugs every night. I don't know if I like the people that I spend my time with. Like, my ego took a night off, and my higher self like cracked the fucking glass and was like, this has got to end.
That's commendable.
Yeah. Thanks. It was a long one.
No, I respect that. No, honestly, it's like I get that. That's good for you.
Thanks. Thanks. I'm trying to be the same person that we were when we met now. Okay. That's what I'm trying to get back to.
Yeah, connecting to that drive, that energy.
And I mean, with your journey is a little different from his. Yeah. But similar enough.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like yours was more drastic and mine was more like subtle.
I don't want to say like you kind of like.
Yeah, no.
You did it with him in one way or another, you know?
Yeah, I mean, in a way, you were always there. You know what I mean? Like, I think that, you know, I talked about how I had a struggle with the way that I talked to myself with just like not being accepting of who I was. And that kind of overflowed into my relationships, the way I thought about
it's a bounce class tonight.
It's not as loud as I thought it would be.
No.
You got 5 minutes. You'll hear it.
Yeah. But like I just kind of like I got tired of, number one, like really not having a purpose. Like I've always been a very creative person, but I've been afraid of sharing that with people or being confident about that, or you know, there's a million different ways I could describe it.
Yeah.
And I can't even express like, and it wasn't like a light bulb moment, but I was just tired of every day waking up and being like, you're doing nothing.
Being mean to yourself.
Yeah.
Being a meanie pants.
Yeah, but also that part of me was not wrong in the sense of that way.
Yeah, no,
you know?
of course.
I was getting up, I was doing whatever, going to work.
Yeah, you had more talk from the devil rather than the little angel.
Yeah. I mean, and I think I needed a little bit of it, but I was also tired of trying to shut that voice up. I was more so trying to like come back with another voice to drown it out.
Yeah, okay.
And it came to me in the way of just like being aware of where my head was going.
Okay.
And that was hard for a while because there were a lot of different substances and relationships and traumas to deal with, to weave through all of that. But I think I was just like, my brain was literally exhausted from building up the belief that I couldn't be nothing, or I wasn't enough.
Yeah.
That I was like, I have to start doing something because the only way I'm going to feel like enough is through myself.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to realize
you're
that
plenty enough, JP, don't worry.
But I also feel like I'm much more generous and present in my relationships now because
You're definitely not as angry as he used to be.
Oh my God, dude.
Both of you.
But that's the thing though, is like when I say I was exhausted by that, I mean that like I was so tired of being angry at myself for being angry and for losing my temper and for going off the rails and for doing self-destructive, sabotaging behavior that was like confirming everything that I was telling myself that wasn't true. That was like, you're no good at doing this. You'll never have a good job. You can't have a balanced life. Like you have to pick something. You need, you know, like, and I think the combination of the environment I grew up in and just the pressure to feel like, oh, well, it's much better out in society than it is in here.
Yeah.
And then trying to fulfill that was, it took everything out of me for years. I mean, you guys were there part of the way, you know what I mean? Like, and it took everything out of me, and it just like, I was just tired, and it's not that I don't still have days where it's really hard to connect with that energy, but it's a lot easier for me to remind myself because it's just like, you're not a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And you can clearly see that because like there's a lot of things that you know that you did work on yourself to change.
Yeah. No, of course.
And it shows, but that journey never ends with trying to, or that it never ends with like knowing you're completely there.
Long road.
I'm always just trying to be a little less angry with
Yeah, no,
myself.
I get that.
Yeah.
I get that.
It's working, I think.
I'd say so.
I was like, road rage is 100% better. Oh my God, dude.
Take a minute to breathe. I mean, you guys have made strides, like truthfully. It's very nice.
To see what you know what I mean, what you've done with the studio, the community you've created, like it's amazing, man. And like to be, like I would fucking hate to not be present for this moment where like you're doing this with your life. You know?
Appreciate that.
Yeah, like it's amazing. You know, I remember when you bought. I remember I put up this fucking wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing to see what you've done, man.
Thanks.
Yeah. And like, but you ain't done. We know that.
Nope.
I'm dying like this, man. Well, I'm giving it to the boys, and then I'm done.
Yeah, the Zen master, man.
So we have one more question for you because we know you got class coming.
Yeah, yeah. Is there anything else you wanna? You're good. You've gotten it.
I got my answer.
You got your answers? Yeah. Were you right?
Always, no kidding.
So we started asking this to all of our guests. It's going to be a thing we do. We did it with his friend Will that we interviewed a couple weeks ago. But I read at the beginning of my journey Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And in that, there's a premise where he's talking about creating a council of people, dead or alive, that help shape you and like are the kind of like
advisors, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like if you need to make a tough decision, you think maybe like
what would this person do?
And like you can pick from any category, any history. It can be a fictional character,
Whatever you want. Just give us 5.
Yeah.
5. I mean,
5 is a big number, but let's start. Yeah.
top 2 people, my parents.
Yeah.
Honestly, you know, they're very, very much
I didn't even think to
rocks
get my parents
for me.
Yeah.
Fictionally, Bruce Lee. That'd be fun.
I mean, he's real.
Well, yeah.
He's just dead.
I mean, I've always liked Bruce Lee. Would be so cool. But
I knew you
honestly,
would say that. I said it to him before the episode.
I retract that. Let's talk about a fictional character,
Okay.
Mr. Miyagi.
That's me.
And as I've gotten older, man, and just like I just watch the presence that was instilled in that movie, like that's what I want to be, you know. And like if I had to sit there and talk to one person, it'd be him.
Yeah.
You know, just everything was simple. He had his little trees, his karate, and, you know.
What do you want to set right about the Karate Kid that the mainstream has wrong?
Well,
We're gonna need another podcast.
let's come back for that conversation. No, honestly, Karate Kid movies were solid. The fourth one,
okay. All right.
No, the third one, whatever, whichever
Yeah.
one was.
No, that sounds about right.
Cobra Kai, I'm half and half on. The Kung Fu Kid, as I like to call it, was the one with Jackie Chan and Jaden Smith, garbage.
That one sucked.
I forgot they did that.
Yeah, it was garbage. No, but honestly, my parents, my wife Rachel, you know, if I really had like to really go towards people, they, you know, my parents have really been rocks for me over the years. My brother, you know. I mean, he's younger than me, but you know, just a nice person to talk to. And then Mr. Miyagi,
right.
Yoda, of course.
Oh, there you
Yoda,
go.
of course.
There you go. Good
You know?
answer. Did
know?
you see his eyes light up?
Yoda.
I'm gonna zoom back in on that.
Any Jedi, I'd be very thrilled to talk to.
Yeah.
I
That's
guess
a good setup. That's a good setup.
But I think common theme, you know, just like that peacefulness that they all portray is just like I personally need that, somebody with a soft, delicate voice that'll kind of just help whisper you through the day.
Yeah.
You know, those gentle reminders is what I appreciate the most. If I had a counsel, I want gentle reminders, not mad, not mean reminders.
Okay.
The way you talk to yourself is so important, man. I've learned that.
Yeah, always be gentle to yourself, man. Always.
Yeah. I feel like you were probably one of the first people to tell me that. Like years ago,
Yeah.
and I probably like
Like, fuck you now.
bounced right off my fucking temples, dude. Yeah.
I know a little something, but
That
no.
was probably, yeah. You probably understand.
Yeah, it's just, you know, be kind. Be kind and love everything you come across unless it gives you a real reason to not love it. You know?
Yeah.
All should fold. Fold into a nice little origami puzzle.
Yeah. Make your own little origami with your life, right?
Yeah.
It's not gonna be pretty all the time, but
You want to let people know where to find you, check you out, anything you want to promote?
I teach karate, guys. I have a fun time doing it. I'm in New Windsor. The school's called Fry's Karate.
yeah. We'll
Honestly,
description.
if you want to try it, come try it. But I'm not here to force anybody to try anything. I just want to, if you do walk through my doors, I just want to give you a new experience that you can have fun with.
Yeah. Do
You know,
you
whether it's lifelong or short term.
Yeah. Do you do like adult classes too?
Yeah, I have
You do?
a
Okay.
small
'Cause
adult
I would
program.
imagine that most of our listeners are adults, at least I hope.
Yeah, no, I do have an adult program.
Steve's screaming about cocaine.
Yeah,
Some mad little kids listening.
listen, who thought we'd be here? Master Bryce said this. Mr. Steve said. If you got kids, I definitely got a thriving kids program.
Awesome,
You know,
yeah.
again, I know adults are shy, and a lot of adults tend to think that
Mm-hmm.
you know martial arts is kids based. But if you take it, give it a chance, and
Mm-hmm.
you can really find something you love about it. You know, it might not be the whole thing, and you know, it might be a little bit of it, but there's something about it, and there's a reason why I keep doing it and getting up and doing it. Well, you know, yeah, free trials for everybody for coming.
Nice. Mention who thought we'd be here if you heard it on here.
I'll give you an extra day.
Yeah.
All right, man.
Yeah, dude.
Thank you so much, Joey. This was
you,
great.
guys.
Thank you for doing
really
it.
glad
We
we got to do
appreciate
this.
you. We're so proud of you.
Yeah.
Like, we can't wait to see what comes next.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Prize
We hope
party,
to be
too.
doing this podcast long enough that your sons can be guests.
That would be hilarious.
That's crazy. That's a
one- we'll
long
do one
time.
at-
JP's going to win an Emmy at episode 736.
I'll be there to support.
673. 673. My
Hopefully
twisted
before,
numbers.
but we're not going to talk about it until we get to that episode.
Yeah. All right, man.
Yeah, dude. We love you, buddy.
Thank
Love you guys.
Thank you for doing this.
We thought we'd be here.
I'm here.
We thought we'd be here.
Oh, I gotta pee.
Yeah? I feel bad for that kid. Was he waiting to get into
Yeah, I
class
was
and we just
shipping.
locked him out?